So let's look at this question here. So we have an expression which is x squared minus 8x plus 6 can be written in this format here. So open brackets x minus p close brackets squared plus q for all values of x. And part A asks us to find the value of p and q. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to complete the square. X squared minus 8x plus 6. So the first step that we do when we complete the square is we write our brackets. And we always write an x inside our brackets. Now, to work out what this number here is, so what our number inside our brackets is going to be, it's always going to be half of whatever this number here is. So half of minus 8 is minus 4, so we're going to write minus 4 squared. And then this 6, we sort of just put it at the end. We kind of ignore it for now. So now what we need to do is to work out what this number here is. So to work out what this number here is always going to be the square of whatever number is inside our brackets here. So the square of minus 4, which is positive 16, but we're always going to subtract the square of whatever our number inside the brackets is. So minus 16 plus 6. So then all we need to do is work out what minus 16 plus 6 is, which is minus 10. And there we have it. So P is equal to 4 because we have it put into the form of x, well, brackets x minus p, and p is going to be 4 here, and then q is going to be minus 10, like so. So then part B asks us to write down the coordinates of this point here. So it says that this graph has a minimum point. So the minimum point is essentially the turning point. And we need to work it out. So to work out what your turning point is by completing the square, I'm just going to write it again. So x minus 4 squared minus 10. We are only going to be looking at this number here and this number here. So the number that is inside our brackets, so this negative 4, is going to represent our x coordinates for our turning point. And the number that is outside the brackets, which is this negative 10, is going to represent our y coordinates for our turning point. If our number outside the brackets is minus 10 here, our y coordinates for our turning point is also going to be negative 10. However, the x coordinates is a little bit different. So if here we see that in here we've got minus 4 in here, that means that our x coordinates for our turning point is just going to be the opposite sign. So it's going to be 4, like that. So our turning point, or our minimum point of this graph here, y is equal to x squared minus 8x plus 6, is going to be 4 minus 10. So now we've got a question here where we have to complete the square for 2x squared minus 16x plus 39. So the first thing what we do is I like to isolate this bit here. And what we need to do is we need to factorize out the 2 from 2x squared minus 16x so that we just have x squared by itself. So if we factorize out the 2 from 2x squared minus 16x, we get 2, and I like to use square brackets, and then inside our square bracket is going to be x squared minus 8x, like so. And then this number at the end plus 39, we just ignore it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to complete the square for whatever is inside our square brackets. So we write our brackets, x, well, squared, and then inside our brackets here is going to be half of this number here, half of -8, which is -4 squared. And then the number that's going to be in here is always going to be the square of our -4, which is 16, and we always subtract the square of that, and then plus 39, like so. So now what we're going to do is we're going to bring back this 2 back into here. So we're going to expand the square brackets. And one thing to remember is that when you are expanding the square brackets, so you're bringing 2 back in, you're multiplying this by 2, but you're also multiplying this -16 by 2. So remember that. So therefore, we get 2 brackets x -4 squared, and then 2 times by -16, which is -32 plus 39. And then we just neaten it up, so we just work out what -32 plus 39 is. So 2 brackets x -4 squared plus 7. And that's it. Lovely. Question AI, so tells us to just complete the square. So let's complete the square for x squared plus 6x plus 7. So the first thing we do, we put it into brackets, we write our x, and then to work out what the other number inside our brackets is going to be, it's always going to be half of this 6 that's next to the x, which is 3. So I'm going to write plus 3 squared. That plus 7's at the end, we ignore it essentially. And then to work out what this number here is always going to be the square of this number in here. So the square of 3 is 9, but we always subtract it. So therefore we get x plus 3 bracket squared minus 2. So then it says, hence, solve the equation x squared plus 6x plus 7 is equal to 0, and give your answer in the form of p plus or minus root q, where p and q are integers. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to write our completed the square format. So x plus 3 squared minus 2, and we're going to write it as equal to 0. So what we do first is we first get rid of this -2. In order to get rid of this -2 on the left hand side, we have to add 2 on both sides. So we end up with x plus 3 squared is equal to 2. Then what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of this square. The opposite of squaring is square rooting. So we're going to square root both sides. So we get x plus 3 is equal to the square root of 2. But remember, when you square root a number, you can get either a positive number or a negative number. So we write plus or minus to show that we have 2 values when we square root 2. And then to get the x by itself, we're going to subtract 3 on both sides. So we get x is equal to -3 plus or minus root 2. And that's it. Thank you for watching.